Happy Thanksgiving. I'm going to talk today about how to talk about politics at the dinner table at Thanksgiving. So, welcome to Law and Society. If you're new, please like and subscribe, and let's talk about it briefly. Thanksgiving for me is a time where I think about all the people who I am grateful for, and there are many, many who I'm grateful for. There are many of you who viewers who I interact with, and even those who I don't interact with because you choose to be quiet. I am thankful for you, and I'm thankful for my loved ones. I'm thankful for my puppy dog. I'm thankful for my dad. I'm thankful for the rest of my family. I'm thankful for the fact that I live in a democracy. Physically, I don't live in a democracy. Well, physically, I live in a different democracy, but I am a part and a citizen of the oldest democracy under the longest continuing constitution in the world. And we live at a time right now where we have to talk about politics. There was a time where, whenever you got together with family, one of the rules would be don't talk politics, don't talk politics because, you know, there are many people in different ends of the spectrum. And yeah, but that was then, and this is now. We need to talk about politics when we get together with our loved ones, even if it's with the people we get together who are there, we are there because of an obligation. Engage in what is happening politically, in the truth, and try to find a place where you understand that there's a common interest in keeping our republic alive. And everything, there are, in an American family, there's likely to be the spectrum politically, and there's likely to be everything from extremely left to extremely right. And dealing with that, the solution to dealing with that isn't to be quiet about it. The solution to dealing with that is to peacefully, civilly engage and talk about it, if for nothing else but the simple fact that you are both there, or you are all there, you know, physically there. There's a commonality, there's more that unites you than divides you. Your political ideologies, if you don't talk about them, you keep them in thinking the other person is wrong, and it builds this poisonous egotistical bubble that we need to, as a society, break. We need to do it peacefully, we need to do it in a civil manner, we need to do it with our loved ones, we need to do it with the ones who are related by blood, we need to do it with the ones we choose as our family, because that's what a democracy means, is to engage. We say democracy means is to go and vote, yes, but the zeal of voting, understanding the value of the vote, and not voting lightly based on one story. We live in the information age, so we get the choice of stories we want to listen to, and sources we want to believe. But at this time, we need to believe in the truth and facts, and we need to broaden the scope of our sources. I'll give you an example. When I was in law school, I would always listen to NPR. That's Michigan Public Radio is what I listened to most of the time when I was in my car, and I was in my car a lot. And public radio as I was driving around in the Midwest. But along with that, when I couldn't find the radio station for that area where I was when I was traveling, I would always also listen to AM, and a lot of the time, some AM shows, there was the Rush Limbaugh show and there was a Sean Hannity show. I don't remember the names of it. And so, as you're driving, you listen, and you're done with listening to the music, you're done. And I would sometimes drive for hours. So I would listen to people like Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh. And, we are in a time where the far right espouses to be Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh was given the Presidential Medal, and, he was invited to a State of the Union and elevated this propagandist um, fad into actually a part of um, communication culture in our country. So hearing both sides of it, or all sides of it, because Michigan Public Radio or NPR gave a balanced approach where conservatives and liberals both provided their perspective. And then I would listen to Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh, and there would be this disconnect. They'd be talking about issues, the same issues, but there would be a disconnect. Both disconnect in fact, as you saw around you as you traveled in Michigan, as I traveled in Michigan and Illinois, and you would see a different reaction amongst people. What in my experience in the Midwest, 2 out of 10 people were outwardly Limbaugh-esque or listening. But there are millions of people who listen on these radio stations from all over the country. And I would invite more people to visit some of the other channels. And okay, it's propaganda. Where How do you realize it's propaganda? Like, I'll give you a very prime example. Just as I was waking up on the other side of the planet, there was news that a there was a car explosion at the northern border between Canada and the United States. And so, on X and on far right media, including Fox and others, they just jumped to the conclusion that it was a terrorist attack and fit that visual narrative at the Rainbow Bridge into their story about securing borders. Then the governor of New York came out and made a statement saying that there had been no evidence so far that it was a event of terrorism. Then the Buffalo, New York FBI, made a statement on X, and news stations broadcasted it, saying that it was actually not a terrorist attack. It was somebody who was driving a Bentley who was going late to some concert or something, and they literally just flew into one of the uh, you know when there's a border, there are these buildings, these stops, and into one of those structures, and it blew up, and I believe it killed the driver and the passenger. So there, the fact comes out, but before the fact comes out, propagandists already fit that image of a fiery crash at the border into the propaganda narrative of danger at the border, not just in the north or south, but in the north. And here's the example. It's an absurd, uh, false narrative that's built, and it's built before the facts come in. And then you have people questioning the FBI, information coming from the FBI, and not believing the governor of New York where the accident took place. And over time, this news will come out, and the truth will get into the streams, and people will realize the truth. But the shock value, and the people who don't listen to anything else except for Limbaugh-esque shows, they already know the truth because they don't listen to any other outlet. So I'm speaking to everybody, but I know sadly there are people who don't even have the angle of looking at a balanced perspective. They just listen to one or two Limbaugh-esque shows. Now there are many, so I'm not going to name them, all of them. But, between Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh pretty much covers the breadth of extreme propaganda. Uh, Anybody going far out from further than that is still fringe. But the propagandists are hugely on the far right. Now, they would say, "Oh no, there are many." See, these are things to talk about. These are things, and the thing is, doing it peacefully at a dinner table, doing it generationally at a dinner table, while giving thanks for being there with each other, is an experience of bonding, is an experience of understanding that Americans cannot afford to not do at this time. And it's not normal American times, it's really like nothing like what we are experiencing now has ever happened before. Courts are coming up with novel arguments. Courts are shying away from following constitutional mandates because nobody unilaterally wants to disqualify an insurrectionist who is also in a political campaign to recapture the office in which he sat while he incited insurrection. It is one of the more novel things that we have ever seen as a country. It is a novel thing that we have seen as a country that in 4 different jurisdictions, the same person is indicted for felonies, 91 counts, and somehow they are still walking freely. And even then, this person's allies are saying that he's being treated unfairly because he's being investigated at all for obstructing criminal proceedings, from obstructing justice in recovering government documents, in conspiring to defraud the United States, to conspire to deprive Americans of our rights under the color of law, the false auspices that he had the authority. And clearly, under Article 2 and all of its following amendments, it explicitly says that every other mentions every other party that should be involved in a presidential election except for the president. And that includes presidential electors. So Donald Trump is something to talk about. And the movements, the far out movements, the extremist movements, is something to remain vigilant of. And if you have somebody extreme like that in your family, it may not be the best time to just go fully left on them or fully truth on them. You let them talk, see where they are, and then you have to learn when to let go. because there are some people that you won't be able to reach, and that's all right. We live in a democracy. Living in an autocracy would mandate that we all think the same way, or we're out. Living in a democracy is where people can think for themselves, and people's ideas, the more there are people, the more there are ideas, more diversity there is. And that's how we get better, through the plentiness of our union, you know, and it brings it all together to the Thanksgiving table. And so I've now rambled on for 15 minutes. All this is to say that, you know, talk about the truth, talk about various sources, and know when to let go. Do it in love, do it in peace. And remember that, you're not going you're my English teacher in high school told me that you're never going to be able to change anybody's mind. They are going to have to do it themselves. So what you can do is just present them with the facts. What you can do is present them with the context. What you can do is present them with a broader picture. And I believe that as citizens of a democracy, we all have a duty to do so. So with that said, gobble gobble. Talk to you soon.